What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 64. Business has picked up of the Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson. Even though there's seemingly not a ton of sports happening right now, there is a ton of sports happening right now. There is, everything is in full swing. We're about to get to the playoffs and a lot of things. And hey, it's March, so we got March Madness right around the corner. Kylan, how are you doing?
I'm good, Morgan. I'm good. It was a busy Saturday and Sunday for me. A lot of coverage of article stuff, church stuff, all the stuff. Saturday, well, not Saturday, but Sunday, yesterday. But yeah, so it's been a good week. Like I said, the Philly Tribune really had me running this week. But things happen, big city, things happen all the time. But it was a good educational, good time to tell stories right now in our business. And both news and sports, because it's crazy how much overlap there's been these last few weeks.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, other than that, I'm good. Trying to rest when I can. A good, hopefully lazy Monday. We'll see though, because the Sixers play tonight at 7, so we'll see. We'll see how lazy it is. I'm good otherwise. What about you?
Yeah. Just like I said, prepping for baby. You know, could be any day now. So it's kind of been my thing. I'm on maternity leave, which is really nice. But yeah, in a good spot, So um yeah, so let's get right into it. Make sure you give us a follow on our social media platforms. I'm M underscore India underscore Miller. And Kylan is Kylan at Kylan W Watson. So make sure you give us a follow there. But right away, we're going to start right into the MLB, which we don't talk about a ton, but this has a kind of implication going into all the different kind of conglomerates that they have as they split with ESPN. A few months ago, I guess the news broke, and they look like they've been trying to find a deal quickly as the season is rapidly approaching. So they said they've been in talks with Amazon, NBC, and Netflix for a broadcast deal. What I think is going to happen, honestly, I think that it's going to be a combination of all of them, kind of a little bit like what they've been doing already, you know, keeping that rolling. It's been working for them, having it kind of all over the place. It's been working for basketball and college basketball. They always do this. It's kind of like you never know what channel it's going to be on. But there are so many games that I think they'll probably give a share of them to each of them. I don't think any of these conglomerates have the bandwidth to do every single MLB game. So I think there's no way they're gonna be able to not split it up a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm of the mindset. I'm gonna slightly disagree with Morgan. I feel like it's gonna be split, but I feel like one of these three will emerge as the main partner. I think that all three of these, well, besides Netflix, two of these people have, one a little bit more than the other. Have streaming services that could use more sports, specifically Peacock. Prime obviously is not. Prime and Netflix are not struggling in the streaming thing. But as far as on the sports side, I feel like NBC is. It seems like it's just popping out money for these deals. They just did it for the NBA. Why not do it for the MLB? For those of you that don't know, I know because I worked on it. They used to have the Sunday brunch baseball or whatever it was at 11 a.m. on Sunday. It was NBC did that. I think it was
Yeah,
mainly on
Sunday
Peacock.
Sunday lead off on Peacock.
Yeah, yeah, whatever that was. So I always still used to tell Morgan that that was a test run for NBC to get those baseball rights. So I agree with her that it'll um probably wind up being split between at least two or three of these companies. But I feel like one of these will emerge as the lead broadcaster just because they don't really care. They love Fox, and Fox and the TBS and the Turner partnership seem to be working out. But ESPN was the lead, for lack of a better term, the lead rights holder. So they need a lead rights holder between these three. It'll probably end up being Netflix because Netflix needs more sports on their thing. But I wouldn't be surprised, like Morgan said, if it splits. But one of these three will emerge as the main baseball lead, the company getting the World Series, the company getting the All-Star game. Do not be surprised if that winds up being NBC or Netflix. Amazon, obviously NBC also has the NBA, but I mean, Netflix is probably more desperate than the other two to get that because the other two have the NBA now. So I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix winds up being the lead broadcaster, because I always thought that football thing was a test for something else. And maybe it was hey, MLB, look over here. We can do it. We have nothing else going on besides movies, so we can do it. So I feel like Netflix is primed to take this from NBC and Amazon just because those two are gearing up, as Morgan knows, for NBA in October. So
yeah, that's fair.
But I agree. I agree. Just slightly disagree with Morgan that each of these three will probably get some type of baseball rights, but one of them will emerge as the lead.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they'll when they come out, they'll do a whole thing on like who gets
World Series, All-Star game.
Yeah. That'll be decided beforehand, and they'll probably be the ones that'll be given some of the bigger series, stuff like that. Like I said, they may go and get different people to do the All-Star game, things like that. But I think the big important ones will probably all be on one. I don't think you'll be flipping back and forth for the NLCS and ALCS. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll be eating our words. But for now, this is what we've got, and it's exciting. And we'll keep talking about it until they have a decision, and then we'll report on the decision that's been made. Moving on to another person that's moving from place to place. The San Francisco 49ers traded Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders. I believe it was for a 5th-round pick. That is exactly what the Commanders needed. They needed that second receiver. They needed a, veteran wide receiver. Deebo isn't the best receiver in the world right now, but I think that's not what they needed. They didn't need another wide receiver one. They have Scary Terry. They have Luke McCaffrey. They have all these people. They didn't need anything crazy. They got what they needed. And I think the Deebo is a really, really good pick for them. I know a lot of Commanders fans that are extraordinarily excited about this.
I mean, that's good for the Commanders. I don't think it's going to help them on the side that they actually need help with, which is defense. I feel like this is
but I think that's what I think that's what the draft is for. Like, I don't think that, a 5th-round pick is nothing, I think, for the Commanders to give up to get him. And yes, they're going to have to pay him, but they don't have to pay a quarterback right now. So they can, they have that advantage that they don't have to pay a lot of their big stars. They don't have to pay. Right. So,
but I also don't think this helps them in that arms race, keeping up with their Super Bowl champion Eagles. Like, that's good. You got Deebo. Cool. That's good for the Commanders. Like, I'm not trying to poo-poo on what the Commanders just did. That's great. They've got they've got their version of AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. But I mean, and the Eagles have, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell ready, wearing to shut both of them down. So it really doesn't matter. To me, I feel like the problem with the Commanders was not on the offensive side. It was on the defensive side. And, I'm of the mindset, this is great for the Commanders. Cool. You got your wide receiver duo. But I think for the Commanders, if you're looking at it, you're saying we got to either stay on the pace or we got to compete with the Eagles. I don't think this helps you do that. I think that, like I said, you got Jaden Daniels. He'll spread the ball around. Hopefully, Deebo Samuel can continue to not be as cooked as he was last year. We'll see. But, I'm of the mindset that, this feels to me like the Commanders are doing what the 49ers did. And you're seeing how that worked out for the 49ers. I think that you need to be investing in your defense more than your offense. Like, you're good on offense as long as you got Jaden Daniels.
No, I know. But I don't think – but what I'm saying is I think that this is them in telling people that they're going to invest in their offense, I think, or in their defense. I think this means that they are going to – they're saying, okay, we're going to use the draft to go in and, you know, draft some defensive players, do this. Like, I think that I don't know. I just think I foresee that's what they're doing. I don't foresee this as like the end all be all move. Again, like 5th round draft pick is nothing for Debo. So I think that they're going to draft or do something more drastic with that, with those picks that they have. And I'm assuming that they're going to take some defensive players. That would be, you know, my assumption. They did they traded away some big defensive players a couple years ago. So I think they're definitely looking to get those guys back. Not those specific guys, but guys to fill those holes.
Sure, but also like it's not just to be like, you know, I've watched the Commanders enough this year to know their offensive line. It's the same thing. The next question is about the 49ers. But I'm not making that comparison in a whole. Like their offensive line is old. Their defense is, you know, let up almost 60 points at the Eagles that had not given up. You know, the whole thing for me is like the Commanders, I think, are going to be a great team as long as Jaden Daniels can stay healthy, right? Before the Commanders, if you're trying to compete, you're looking at, I've got to compete with the Eagles, right? I got to compete with even though they beat the bricks off the Lions, I got to compete with a healthy Lions squad. At least we hope on defense, right? I've got to compete with a 49er squad that's in this last dance next year. Who knows, right? But if you're looking at this move, like Debo's a great receiver. Like I said, it's great that they have their version of AJ Brown and Devontae Smith now with Terry McLaurin and Debo. But like Debo is, you know, I don't know if he'll be used like they use him. They have Austin Eckler, so maybe they won't use him as a running back like the 49ers did. But like you said, like Debo is not the Debo of old anymore. And I just think that if you're the Commanders, the question should be, the thing leading your offseason this offseason should be, I'm trying to compete with the Eagles. Not only chasing them for a championship, but chasing them for the division title. Like, it's kind of like the same thing. If you're with the Chiefs, you got to think about if you're in the same division. Like, I'm competing with the Chiefs. Like, I am competing with the Eagles, right? And the Commanders know this better than all these other teams because they're in the same division as the Eagles, right? You're competing for maybe two playoff spots. So, like, you got to, you know, that's what I'm saying. But, you know, I'm happy for Commanders fans. I'm not trying to poo-poo on the decision, just trying to tell y'all that if you try to compete with the Eagles, this ain't the move that'll help you do that because your offense was fine outside of your line, which, like Morgan said, they'll probably address. But I don't really know if I trust that scouting department because they really didn't hit on anything outside of Jaden Daniels. But we'll see. You know. But yeah.
All righty. I think we kind of talked about this already. If the Commanders are a better team with Debo, so what's happening with the 49ers? I think that we've talked about this earlier in the season that they were, once we kind of realized that they were not the team that they used to be. It kind of looked like they just started deciding to dismantle the team. Are you in a rebuild? Are you not? I think their draft will be pretty saying. What are they going to do with Purdy? I think it'll be interesting. I have genuinely no idea what they are going to do. I think that Kyle Shanahan is a great coach, and I don't think he's going to lose his job. But this is probably the most, if I were him, the most worried that I would have been. I mean, he would have been fired by now. He's not going to lose his job. Combine's over, he's not losing his job, but I definitely think that he's on the hot seat for sure.
Okay. Well, y'all already know what I think. Morgan knows. For those of y'all didn't see us offline, I was doing the dance. I was talking about, I told y'all I was the only one in this media. I said it after the Super Bowl. Morgan remembers last season that it was over for the 49ers. That was their best shot right there. They had the Chiefs on the ropes and they couldn't do it, right? Everybody thought it was hating. Even Morgan thought it was hating. But I told you I know the 49ers better than they know themselves. Therefore, they were a front-running team. That's what they were. And they continue to prove it year by year by year. Front-running team with way too much talent at the top and not enough where it matters the most, right? And so, unfortunately for the 49ers, they're cooked. I'm sorry if you're a 49ers fan. Like, you're cooked. Like, I told if Jed York was listening to this podcast, Morgan knows this. I laid it out for him a few weeks ago. John Lynch should have been they should have treated him like Barry Bonds used to treat baseballs, right? He should have been kicked out and thrown into McCovey Cove. That's where he should have been, right? John Lynch should be out of here. Y'all should have found another GM. I've said this on this podcast many a times. This season, it was either him or Kyle Shanahan. Somebody should not have had a job after that collapse that happened this past season. But Jed York apparently is, and the rest of the people in the 49ers front office are apparently too stupid to see what's right in front of their face. So I'm gonna tell it like it is. After this season, both of them will be gone because it's not going to get any better for them. I'm sorry, Kyle Shanahan, you're going to be a casualty of this because I don't know. When I look at it, kind of like how Morgan said, right? If I was Kyle Shanahan, I would pull a diva quarterback, a diva wide receiver. I would have not let anything happen this offseason. I would have even let that Deebo Samuel trade happen unless John Lynch wasn't there anymore, because this is what's going to happen this year. It don't matter who your daddy is, Kyle. He ain't going to be able to save you. Like, after this season, right, they are going to fire John Lynch, and then they will fire you right with him, because this next GM that comes in after John Lynch will not want to deal with you, right? And Morgan just asked, what you do with Brock Purdy? You pay him because you're getting rid of Deebo. They're going to get rid of Ayuk. The only person still standing after they're done cleaning house on the offensive side will be Kittle and Brock Purdy. And that'll be the 49ers offense after this year. Because, stop me if you heard this before, every 49ers season, you're always hearing about a running back being injured, or all of their running backs being injured at the same time because they run them into the ground. And I'm just of the mindset that what's happening with the 49ers is this is what happens when you have Cole and all these other players that are old. You should have been let go of them, right? Like the 49ers were a laughingstock because that defensive player refused to come in. But I think a lot of people on the 49ers did the same thing, because if you look at their season this year, a lot of them quit, but they still collected paychecks, right? He got the most attention. But like I am of the mindset that for the 49ers, it is a top-down culture. Unfortunately, Kyle Shanahan will probably have to pay for this. But it starts at the top. John Lynch is horrible. Like I am of the mindset that we're looking at all these draft picks that he's done. This is a team that he made, and they went to Super Bowls and choked. So to me, when that was Howie Roseman, Chip Kelly came in, put him to the side. He came back, harder and wanting to succeed. Right at this point, if I was Jed York, John Lynch would have been fired. But as Morgan said, it's too late now. You're about to get into the draft next month, so it's too late. But John Lynch needs to go. Kyle Shanahan, I would say, but at this point, Jed York basically done made his bed for the 49ers. So it's happening with the 49ers. Like I said, they're cooked. It's over. Maybe Brock Purdy, if he makes a total leap, will be able to sneak them in on a wild card spot. But it's over for them. And it's funny because like Morgan and I were playing about this not off season, but a while ago, where I think I asked her who does she think would be the best team in California for the long run. We both said the 49ers. and now it's looking like the Rams are more built for the long haul than the 49ers. So no, I don't know what to tell you, 49ers fans. Your offense is literally about to be Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, what's left of Christian McCaffrey's ankles and Achilles, and Greg Kittle. I'm sorry, Greg Kittle. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. I have a little more faith, I think, in Lynch than you do, but I don't think next year is going to be their magical year. Let's put it that way. So moving on to an interesting thing that I guess a team that could have been on this. The 49ers definitely are a team that could have been part of Hard Knocks this year. But UNC football is going to be doing Hard Knocks. Now, I think they're doing the off-season Hard Knocks. I think that's what I heard today. I was trying to figure this out. I don't know if they're doing the actual like training camp Hard Knocks. I still think they're going to find a team for the training camp Hard Knocks, but I think this is supposed to be the like what the Giants did last year that was such a disaster that the Giants like are still getting flack from, and that, you know, no other team would ever do that. Like that was just, and I don't think it was the Giants' fault. You know, even as a Giants fan, I think that they were trying to work with the league and do something interesting that hadn't been done before. And it just, you know, hindsight is 2020. And I think some of the conversations and things that were had really ended up kicking the Giants in the ass. So I think that I think that no team probably was willing to let them in. I don't know if that's true though. I've been trying to figure out, there hasn't been a ton out on it. But I think that that's what they're doing. They're doing the off-season Hard Knocks, which I think would be actually quite interesting for college. Learning about, you know, the ins and outs of recruiting and that kind of stuff. I'm shocked that Bill Belichick is letting this happen. He seems like the last person that would let people inside of their.
The boosters are probably like, if you want NIL money, you have to do this.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm assuming we'll get to meet his girlfriend and hear some stories from her. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I actually might tune in, you know, who knows? So I think it'll be quite interesting. And I don't blame any team for not wanting to do the off-season Hard Knocks at all. I think Hard Knocks should have been a little better last year with the stuff that they released with that. I think that it's just it's stupid. It was stupid to think that an NFL team, it would go over well.
I mean, I will just be honest. I will not be watching. I don't watch Hard Knocks anyway, so I will still not be watching Hard Knocks. But I think it'll be interesting, as Morgan said, to see, I guess, the college side of Bill Belichick. I mean, it'll be interesting. I've always wanted to know when you're a new coach, whether it be on football or basketball side or any college sport, I would love to get the ins and outs on who stays, who goes, who do you Jedi mind trick into transferring. So this is good. This is like real life NCAA football video game to me. So I will say that I'm hooked. But I probably won't watch Hard Knocks, but I would love to see that. Excuse me. I think that, you know, the NFL might have accidentally stumbled on some gold here, because I mean, how far has UNC football come from Mac Brown, no one really caring about it, to Bill Belichick, boom, Hard Knocks is on campus. Look at that. So, you know, I'm of the mindset that this might be gold. I mean, I would love to get the inside scoop on some college football teams. You know, I hope Syracuse never does it, but I would love to get to get the scoop on everybody else's football program. So, you know, I'm of the mindset that this is great. This is great for UNC. Obviously, like we said, when Bill Belichick got hired there, that Chapel Hill's about to be, you know, kind of like the rap song, up, 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 up. Like it's up for UNC right now, like especially for the football team, and you know, even though y'all know we don't really get into politics here, even though I don't believe in the trickle down effect in anything, but the attention may trickle down to the other programs who might get a mention. Maybe there's a football player dating a volleyball player. You never know with this stuff. But outside of that, like, I think this is great for UNC football. I think this is great for a Hard Knocks remix, because as Morgan said, and as the reporting said, a lot of football teams didn't want to do it, so they had to go to the college side. But like I said, Hard Knocks might have stumbled on some gold, because as Morgan and I both know from being reporters, there are a lot of desperate college teams that would love some attention off of Hard Knocks and would give them ultimate access, because unlike in the NFL, it matters less in college, because all you have to do is get some money, and you could I'm not saying buy your way into a championship, but you know, I think they said, what's the thing of that? Ohio State, it cost them $40 or $42 million to build that team. So all you really need is basically a rich booster, and you can build a championship contender. So, you know, I think this is great for UNC football. And like Morgan said, we'll get to, I guess, beat some more of Bill Belichick's family. For people who are not Patriots fans or didn't really care about who his family was, people get to beat them now, especially his 22, 23-year-old girlfriend, however old she is. I think she's like 25.
Yeah.
But she's a grad student at UNC, so it'll be interesting to see that side, because I know a lot of people. I don't know. Morgan saw the clips of like Bill Belichick texting on his phone. His girlfriend got the jacket down with the shoulders out. I guess they were at a hockey game or something at UNC. And I'm just like, I just find it interesting. Like, I would love to get more insight on what she thinks about, dating somebody who most of the championships that he won, she probably was like 6 or 7 years old for. So I would love to know what that dynamic is like. But other than that, like, I think this is great for the college football program of UNC, and great for the school, I guess, because you get Hard Knocks on your campus for something that has nothing to do with basketball. So it's great for them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think anything that, shows the college world will help these kids, especially for an UNC football program that is not, I don't know how to say this nicely, not like well known, I guess, not, known for being
not relevant. You can say it, not relevant.
Yeah. Moving on to another team that is never relevant ever, but always seems to be in the news. My Giants, what are they going to do in the NFL draft? We talked a little bit about this before, we came on. There's been rumors that they're going to take my least favorite player of all time, Aaron Rodgers. And, that will just be, at least I'll have a baby to keep me preoccupied during football season, because God, that just really makes me sad to think about. But we're not there yet with the draft. I still think they're going to take a quarterback. I still think they're probably going to take Shedeur if he's still there, or Cam Ward. It's looking more and more like Travis is going to be the number one pick. So, that leaves two quarterbacks to choose from for the second and third pick. So I'm assuming we'll probably end up with one of them. I think I'd be fine with either of them. We talked about this a little before. I think Shedeur would be a great fit in New York. I think that the Giants haven't had a quarterback that's young and flashy and fun in a while. And I think that that works great in New York. I think that he can handle the press pretty well. He's Deion's son, and he's been in the limelight his whole life. So coming to New York isn't going to be a big difference for him, to be honest. So I think that would be a great fit for the Giants. But we'll see. We got about a month and a half until, we start really digging into the draft and who's going to take who. And I'm assuming that some trades will start happening. And I know there was a point in time where the number one pick was possibly up for a trade. So we'll see. You never know what happens. But yeah, the Giants are this weird team where they have a lot of really, really, really good pieces, like really good pieces. And then they just like fall apart in other areas. I mean, it seems like you're a broken record as a Giants fan when you talk and you say that they need a better offensive line. And they had a great one for the beginning part of the season, and then injuries just kind of plagued them on that O-line. So if they can get some solid backups in case they have injuries again, I think they'll be pretty set. Their defense is super, super solid if they can keep all those guys. They don't have an issue rushing the passer. They don't have an issue getting sacks. So I'm not necessarily worried. Yeah, their secondary is sometimes a little shoddy. So, maybe a lower round, grab a cornerback or a safety, something like that would be awesome. But I'm not necessarily worried about that as much as I maybe was. You're on mute, I think. Can't hear you. Kyle looks like he's on mute. I mean, I can keep talking about the Giants till he can get on. I have nothing but short to say. But, Still on mute. Still can't hear you. It's one of those things where being a Giants fan hasn't been fun recently, and with Malik Neighbors, he's made it a little bit fun. And I think that people enjoy.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
There you go.
But
there
people, especially in the New York area, they like to have fun while watching football. So I think that adding somebody like Shedeur and Malik, not Malik, Neighbors. We already know that they like each other. They like throwing together, and I think it'd be fun. So, what do you got to say about that?
Hey, I'm, whatever makes you happy. I have nothing, the Giant. You already know about your Giants. I have nothing to say about the New York Football Giants. This week, I'm going to leave that alone. Let y'all enjoy, whatever the Giants do. I just hope that the pick makes you happy, and I mean that sincerely because, no, it's all a crapshoot with the draft.
Of course, yeah, you never really know.
I have been telling all the Giants fans in my life that I hope that, even though the rivalry is always real, when they're not playing each other, it really doesn't matter. So I hope that the Giants make you happy by taking Shedeur. I think it's weird that they're looking at Aaron Rodgers, but we can get into that next week if it ever actually happens. But, I'm of the mindset that, the Giants just need to get younger. I think that. I don't think there's anything. I think Daboll might be on the hot seat. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like the GM should be on the hot seat more than him. But I feel like Kyle Shanahan is not the only coach sweating and who's going to be looking at the draft and free agency as a chance for a small reset. So no, I hope it works out for Daboll. I think he's a good coach. I like him, except when he's coaching against the Eagles. So, I'm of the mindset that, hopefully it works out for you Giants fans. And that's and that's probably as during the offseason, I can say that, and the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So I can say this now. So I hope that it works out draft-wise for you guys. But we'll see. Generally, y'all have a good scouting department. So generally, you guys know how to pick, but we'll see.
Yeah, I have to say our drafts have been pretty good in the last couple of years. There's people that are not amazing, but we haven't had any like major flops, and we've been drafting pretty high. So knock on wood that we keep the streak up this year. All right, so going into Kylan's team, are the Eagles really going to trade for Myles Garrett? I'll say a quick thing and then I'll let you talk. It seems like that perfect spot for Howie Roseman to make another big splash and just to add another name to this Eagles defense. But the flip side of that is like, and I mean this in like the most genuine way, like, do the Eagles really need him? Like that, I mean it like that. Is he worth that money? Because the Eagles already have such a solid, amazing defense. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe there are people that are leaving that I don't know about. But I think there are other teams that are way more desperate that need a Myles Garrett that may pay more. And he's at the tail end of his career, so maybe the money doesn't really matter to him. And I think that that'll all come out in these negotiations. But that's kind of my thing where, like, yeah, of course, like, who wouldn't want Myles Garrett on their team? But is it worth it right now? Do they really need him?
Yeah, no, I'm on the mindset that they probably don't need him. But I think, this is what happens when you win a Super Bowl, and I think that Howie Roseman is very much trying to build. I said this when he drafted Jordan Davis, Jalen, and them. Like, he is trying to build a team that will last. Now Myles Garrett is a little bit on the older side, but I feel like where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Like, I was right with Morgan last year. I didn't want to believe. I kept telling her, I don't know, Saquon might end up back home. And I didn't believe it. I was like a 10. Usually I believe like half the rumors that I hear about the Eagles. And I was like, nah. And she kept asking me. She was like, "Are they gonna do it?" I was like, "Nah." Howie Roseman really doesn't like old running backs, even though I know Saquon's only 28. But yeah, mileage wise, old running backs they don't pay it, and so like. I guess Howie Roseman must listen to this podcast and say Kylan thinks he knows me, but I'm going to show him. So I am of the mindset that if Howie Roseman, the cap genius that he is, thinks that he can find some way to pay Myles Garrett and not really lose anything, then so be it. I mean, I'm of the mindset that this is kind of like when my dad always tells me, my dad's a retired accountant, but he says, is it a want or a need? This is more of a want than a need for the Eagles. And, they can make that want happen. Hey, I'm going to be right there being reporting on the Eagles and being like, Myles Garrett is here. I mean, I feel like the biggest loss, we don't really know because he's not really saying it. I believe everything I'm hearing is saying Brandon Graham's going to retire, so that'll be a big loss. So Myles Garrett can come in and replace that. Jordan Davis, I'm of the mindset that if they can make it work, so be it. I mean, I'm going to say this. I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I did last year when I was totally pessimistic about Saquon Barkley. And this time, I'm going to throw because Morgan knows this. Majority of the time I talk about the Eagles, I take the journalism hat off. So in this case, the journalism hat is off. And Kylan's going to go full on believing. Kylan, the fan, is going to believe that sometime maybe in the next 2 weeks, Myles Garrett will be an Eagle. Now, Kylan, the journalist, is skeptical. I'm like 70% in here that maybe that'll happen, which is, as Morgan knows, higher than I thought Saquon was going to happen. So I'd say I'm about 60 or 70% in that this might happen because we were hearing the same thing, and Morgan knows after the combine about Saquon, and it happened. Now, it might be a little bit too expensive for Howie Roseman's taste because probably have to lose one of the Georgia Bulldogs, but maybe they'll draft another one, so you never know. I know how he says it pains him as a Florida alum to have to pick Georgia players, but it is what it is when you're trying to build a dynasty. So, I think it could happen. Kylan, the fan, is saying it's going to happen. Kylan, the journalist, is like, I'm 70% in here, but I feel like if the Eagles want him, they'll bring him in there. And Myles Garrett, I mean, Myles Garrett with Jalen Carter, and if they find some way to keep Jordan Davis, obviously they're probably going to lose Josh Sweat as well. But Myles Garrett on that end, I mean, if you're on the offensive line, who are you going to block? Because as Morgan knows, Jalen Carter gets held on every play. He might actually get single coverage and actually be able to prove that he's the best. He is Reggie White. He is the best defensive player. Like, with all due respect to what's his name in at the Rams who retired, Aaron
Donald.
But no, like Jalen Carter is that dude. He's going to be the GOAT defensive lineman when it's all said and done. Like he's getting triple team now, and he's only
don't we still got Sexy Dexy.
You do, but I mean the Eagles, Jalen Carter might have single-handedly saved the Eagles Super Bowl run with a sack in the snow. So I'm of the mindset that Myles Garrett, I mean, that defensive line is nasty already. Like, just imagine Myles Garrett. Like, that's a scary thought if you're a divisional opponent, if you're the Chiefs, if you're the Commanders. And now we're hearing rumors that sort of like what they did to Morgan's Giants. Howie Roseman is petty. So I just think that what's happening here is the Eagles are going to do everything that they can to make sure that Myles Garrett doesn't end up in DC. I'm of the mindset that the only reason the Eagles would even want to, I feel like the Eagles wouldn't be interested in this if they weren't sure that the Commanders wanted Myles Garrett. That's what I think this is. I think this is, we want him, but we also don't want him in DC. I think that's what this is.
That's fair. Yeah.
All right.
Moving right along. Are there any other off-season moves that you think that the Eagles should make?
Yeah, so I think their priority should be Zach Bond. They need like, Morgan knows I've come on here since when we did this as a broadcast, and every day we do this, that the Eagles need a linebacker. Like, I know I think Zach Bond has proven that linebackers are not a dime a dozen. You don't have Nakobe Dean probably until like October, November, because he's recovering from an MCL and ACL break. So they need something consistent. And Vic Fangio will coach them up regardless. But Zach Bond needs to be the priority. Darius Slay has been released for you Eagles fans that have not checked your phone recently. Darius Slay has been released. He'll probably end up being a June 1st designation. But this is what happened last year. He was going to sign with the Ravens, and then the Eagles at the last minute came back to him, gave him a little bit cheaper money. He stayed for another couple of years. Now he's won the Super Bowl. So I feel like with this, like obviously Darius Slay was the second cornerback, and now they have Cooper DeJean, and obviously the main shutdown corner being Quinyon Mitchell, right? So I think I prefer Cooper DeJean in the slot. So I believe that the Eagles should either get Darius Slay back. If they don't get Darius Slay back, then they need to bring somebody who I know Morgan is very familiar with, James Bradbury, make him the second cornerback, unless they can draft another shutdown corner. But I have full faith in Cooper DeJean that he can be the second cornerback next to Quinyon. But I like Cooper DeJean better in the slot, taking on the tight ends, tackling Travis Kelce, getting those pick sixes off the GOAT quarterback or off the God QB, as I call him. I like Cooper DeJean better in the slot, but I'm not a big fan of Gio. I'm sure he already knows what he's about to do. But I'm of the mindset that they need to draft another cornerback or get Isaiah Rodgers. Between Rodgers and James Bradbury, somebody should be that second corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell. So you need to figure out if they want to bring in a vet cornerback or bring back Slay. And then I think it's just about obviously finding a replacement for Brandon Graham, finding another edge rusher, whether that be through the draft or whatever, if Josh Sweat doesn't come back, and then figuring out. I mean, the Eagles have done a nice job at the D tackle position, so they have enough Ojomo and all these other players, so they don't really need another DT, but they definitely need an edge rusher. So edge rusher, CB. Make sure you got the secondary pretty consistent, and I think they'll be good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is your.
I forgot one. Get a tight end because I love Dallas Goedert, but get a draft or sign a tight end. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to get that one in there.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
All right. So moving right along to my favorite portion of the program. Not really and not really. Is the NBA covered differently than the other four major sports? And is that hurting the league? I will let the casual fan in comparison to me start this one because I want to hear her thoughts on this, since she's more objective, respectively, than me.
So I don't think so. I think that there are a few things that are different. One, the season is so long. Two, these players are making so much money. And three, there's games every single night. So the people who are talking about NBA are talking about NBA every single day. I would say that there is way more, as NFL players, when the NFL season is happening, they are in my opinion, way more criticized for everything that they do. Now, there is a difference where I think that the NFL during the season, the players are doing a lot less things than the NBA players are. During the season, the players don't really go out places and like do things like that. You know what I mean? It's so much recovery that goes into every week of the NFL. Whereas in the NBA, like I said, they're playing every other night. They're traveling to different cities. There is probably a higher percentage of risk of things that can go wrong, I guess, if that makes sense. So if you're saying that they're covered differently, yeah, I mean, I guess yes and no. I don't think that I don't necessarily think that they are. Colin, I'm sure you have a different answer than I do. You're muted, or I can't hear you.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think they are covered completely differently, just because, I mean, you and I have both worked on football shows. Like, football shows get that total coverage, the unbiased, like they get the fan coverage. I think also like just in all the major four sports, right? I think it's funny that we're calling an 82 game season long, but the longest thing is baseball with 160 some games. But like I'm
I
of the
mean, it's
mind,
just so different than 17 games, you know.
yeah. Yeah, so I am of the mindset that, this covered differently, and I think it's covered differently in a couple of ways, right? So I think like when you look at football specifically, because football, depending on who you are, Morgan has football, hockey as her 1A, 1B. I have basketball, football as my 1A, 1B. But if you look at football, right, football coverage is like, Morgan knows because she works on shows that are primarily football based. It's pure fanboy stuff, right? Now that's all due respect to Chris Sims and Mike Florio, but it's pure fun. Oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? Especially in the off season. During the season, it's speculation mixed in with fantasy and betting. Like football, they actually cover like fully the product on the field, right? And they do a great job. Like Morgan and them, they do a great job covering the sport. They got the clips out. None of them get a billion, but they cover the clips. That's all due respect to all the work that everyone, because I don't want nobody to watch this and think I'm disrespecting what y'all do on football shows. I am not. I actually envy it because with football talk, it's actually purely about the product. And if we get outside the product, it's about the teams, because football is more about, it is an individual sport, but it's more, the coverage makes you think it's more about the team than what it actually is. So I will give football that. Like football is covered purely as a team sport. So is hockey. So is baseball, right? Like baseball, for real, everybody talks about basketball players, but it's really baseball players that make the most money. So I'm of the mindset that, basketball, the NBA is covered differently purely because the NBA is the only sport of the four that dominates, whether it's in season or off season. And the way they cover the NBA, Morgan knows, she's heard me say this in person and on here plenty of times. As a pure basketball head, I hate the way they cover professional basketball in this thing, because it's always some type of dumb behind comparison, because it's all about, FIBA's more entertaining because they have these dumb goaltending rules. It's not goaltending in Europe, but it's goaltending in America. It's uninteresting. Like what we have in the NBA is we have media people. I don't want to throw some aspersions on them, but some of them, they hate the sport of basketball. And it's not that they hate the sport of basketball, they hate the players, right? And that penetrates the coverage. Whereas with NFL, hockey, and baseball, they all try to maintain some professionalism, even though they're all biased, right? So I'm of the mindset that basketball is covered differently purely because the NBA is the only sport that has pop culture appeal. NFL does too, but nobody's rapping about how they want to throw like Tom Brady, right? So like basketball has all this stuff, so it's covered differently because we focus on the nostalgia. I talked about this last week with the All-Star game. We focus on the nostalgia of it. Oh, such as Victor Wembanyama and Joel Embiid are like Hakeem and Dirk Nowitzki mixed together with Tim Duncan and this and this, right? We got all these nostalgia and comparisons. This gets into the next question, right? Like when you talk about the NBA and the face of the NBA, like it's all about that, right? You're not a star is not just a star. You've got people like making engagements off your name. Ain't nobody doing that to Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley like they're doing that to Joel Embiid, to LeBron James. Like you don't have to worry about your missteps being on Shaqtin' a Fool, right? The only football player that had their missteps being on pop culture stuff was Odell Beckham. I was about to call him OJ Beckham. Odell Beckham, right? So you had that, right? But like you got Brick Center, NBA Centel, all this stuff around basketball because basketball dominates. And so I think it's covered differently. Like we've seen it on shows that both of us have been a part of, right? They just cover it differently. It's never about the product. It's always about such and such is this, such and such is that. It's never about the team. And I think that's what it is. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I'll say it as many times as we talk about this in season and off season. The NBA has a media coverage problem. No other sport has a media coverage problem like the NBA. You will see in no other sport. Like, perfect example, PFT, even though neither one of us are up early enough when we're not working on the show to watch it, right? you'll never see Florio or Sims crapping on the current players, right? You'll never see that. But you see it sometimes, okay? You'll never see it.
You'll never see Chris Sims doing it. Let's put it that way.
But you'll never see any of those main football people, Matthew Berry, whoever you want to put in here. You'll never see them crapping on they may crap on the teams, but they'll never crap on the product, right? They may crap on the players about their offensive choices, right? But they'll never crap on them and make it like nobody, like a Skip Bayless or Stephen A. Smith. Nobody. Now, let me not even disrespect Stephen A. Smith. Nobody like has Skip Bayless their way into millions and billions of dollars purely on hating one specific player. And we all know who that one specific player is, LeBron James. You can't do that in any other sport because that's just what the NBA does. The NBA is a dominant sports league. It is a juggernaut, right? This is why I say they have a demographic that no other sport has, 18 to 40. Soccer don't even have that. So the NBA is covered differently because you have 24/7 coverage of NBA players, and it's not always good because you got a lot of people who don't love the game like I do, don't have respect for the game like Morgan does, to not be like, oh, such and such suck because they didn't make a basket and they cost me my parlay. So I'm gonna say they're soft, they're this, they're that. I'm gonna destroy them as a person because I just hate it, right? Yeah, like you've had, like Kevin Durant has talked about this. He's wanted to fight multiple sports media people that a lot of y'all like on multiple occasions. So like that's what I'm saying, right? It never gets to the level, it never crosses over like it does with any of these other sports because they get covered the fair and way we were all taught to do in journalism school. Whereas with the NBA, you have current players in media, not even current players, former players like the Draymond Greens, the Richard Jeffersons, and all these other players, Reggie Millers and everybody, who are all broadcast television, broadcasting and doing play-by-play of the game, crapping on the product. Now, what would make me, like, if you're watching football, right, and you have, like, let's just for example, say this, right? Like, Tom Brady was doing everything he could to keep y'all watching that Super Bowl that I texted Morgan during halftime while Kendrick was still performing was over. Like, they were doing everything. Like in a basketball game, Reggie Miller would have been like, it's over, folks. Turn to something else. I mean, look, Joel Embiid isn't even playing. He sucks. He's this, he's that. He's that. Like, I have seen it on multiple occasions as somebody who's watched the Sixers that they crap on the players, they crap on the product, and then they turn around and lead their A, B, and C blocks with, why is nobody watching basketball? Couldn't be because the play-by-play people are telling people the product sucks while they're literally across from these players calling the game. You see what I mean? Even on the shows that people like that are supposed to be dedicated to basketball, you see people speculating, oh, well, if he doesn't play here, like it's a medical disqualification. And that's all people hear, right? And then they run with those quotes from these various reporters who have to come out and say, hey, I don't actually believe this. I was just informing one of my followers on X who said that, and then it became a whole thing all weekend where I've got to dispel that. Nobody has ever gotten medically retired except for Chris Bosh, and that was because of his blood clots, right? So, like, I'm of the mindset that this is what I'm talking about with the NBA. The NBA has a media coverage problem, and then they have these influencer Twitter and social media problem. But their main problem is ESPN, TNT, and others don't cover them the way they should be covered. And they've already eliminated the TNT problem. So if I'm ESPN, I'm probably sweating bullets like Kyle Shanahan and Brett Dayball right now because you already know, like you see it how everybody's foaming at the mouth to get the NBA right now and to cover it correctly. Morgan, you got anything to add? She went dark, so I guess not. But moving right along, is LeBron James right that media members need to cover the league accurately and stop the comparisons and crapping on the players? Yeah, I think that they should. I think that the product is very, very good, and the NBA should be covered. Oh, Morgan dropped. Should be covered accurately. And I think that the product is great. I think that you have a lot of teams like an OKC Thunder, Houston Rockets, and others. Like the Lakers are now a 2 seed. Like you have the perfect combination of what's going on right now in basketball where you have, excuse me, Morgan's back. Where you have.
Sorry, my mom FaceTimed me and it just completely kicked me out of the stream.
Oh, okay. But you have the perfect combination right now. The Lakers are a 2 seed for the first time in like 4 years. You have OKC's doing even better this year. You have the Cleveland Cavaliers are doing great. Like the product is great. And you have all these stars, the mixing of stars and everywhere right now. But right now, we're at a time where people are like, oh, snap, only 2.5, 3 million people watch the basketball game, right? Instead of, 2 million people. But I mean, in comparison, the NBA has suffered an 8% drop in TV ratings. Now, if we take somebody who I was crapping on last year, or not even last year, last week, and talking about his sport, what's up, PK Subban? No, I'm not taking my hand off your neck. While we're at it, I actually did some more research, as Morgan knows, because I tagged her in it, and the NHL is suffering a 20+% drop in ratings. So what's going on with your product, PK? So calm down. So I'm of the mindset that if the NBA is only losing 8%, like basketball as a whole, right? Obviously, we still have a full season to go, but you got a 4% drop in college basketball ratings, men's and women's, and you got an 8% drop in the NBA. That's a 12% drop in comparison to 28% hockey. NFL, I told Morgan might know more internal stuff, but the NFL didn't have the ratings it wanted because we haven't heard nothing about NFL ratings since Thanksgiving. And up until this most watched Super Bowl with the Eagles and the Chiefs, we heard nothing. Morgan can correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't see anything about NFL ratings this year, and that's what makes me think that it dropped. What you think? You're on mute. You're on mute, so I can't hear you.
They come out every week. I don't know if they necessarily dropped. I think they definitely dropped when they were on streaming services, but I didn't hear executives were not concerned, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't hear anything about any of the 4 sports executives being concerned. It's always about the media people and the fans. The fans, put them in parentheses and quote marks, that are on Twitter and social media and on TV talking about. But it's like I said, it's like LeBron said, like, who wants to be the face of the NBA if you're crapping on it? Like, you've got people saying, oh my God, international players are making US players obsolete. I mean, the faces of the league to me right now, Joel Embiid, obviously he's injured, but Nikola Jokic, you got great Giannis Antetokounmpo, like Jason Tatum, you got great players right now. I just think, outside of Giannis, who's in a smaller market. I mean, both Giannis and Jokic are in smaller markets, but smaller media markets for those of you that don't know, in comparison to Philly and Boston. But you got Jalen Brunson, Cats in New York now. Like, it's horrible. As LeBron said, he knows from experience with the Skip Bayless thing that it's bad to be like the face of the NBA, because then you've got to hear all these media people who who have a vested interest in crapping on you because your name gets them, like I said, a lot of clips, right? Joel Embiid and Sixers fans go through this a lot, where everything, especially this past weekend and for the next few weeks, will be about Joel Embiid to get engagement, right? The LeBron discourse is exhausting. The Steph Curry discourse is exhausting. Like, it's so exhausting because you have people who are dedicated to crapping on these players because that's how they get their money, right? And engagement and farming and everything else. And no other sport has to deal with that. Nobody is engagement farming off Patrick Mahomes. Like, no one is engagement farming off of Sidney Crosby or Alexander Ovechkin, because for real, and like I told Morgan, with all due respect to her second favorite sport, like, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but it's because outside of hockey fans, no one's going to be like, yep, that's what I care about, what Ovechkin is doing if I'm not a Capitals fan, right? I care about what Crosby's doing if I'm not a Penguins fan. And that's the difference, right? Same thing with baseball, right? If you're not a Dodgers fan, why would you care about Shohei Ohtani? If you're not an Angels fan, why would you care about Mike Trout? Like, that's what I mean, right? When I say this, like, no other sport probably besides soccer has the crossover appeal. And even soccer is limited because I only care about Mbappe because he's got the same first name as I do. So I you know what I mean? Like, you got Neymar, right? I think he's retired himself. Messi and all these other players, but bunch of soccer players, I've only named 3 that got crossover appeal. Like that's what I mean, right? And so when you're the face like a LeBron, like a Steph, like a Joel Embiid, like a Jokic, you got people. No, not other. This is what I mean when I say that basketball players have a lot more heart and have are much smarter than every other sport, because not any other sport can handle all of those. There are players that can handle that and still come up in here, be professional, play the game, do what you need to do, help your team win, and like not be insane. Like I couldn't imagine my name being all over the internet and me not responding, but that's what they did. That's what they do for 82 plus games a year. Morgan?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't follow the NBA really at all. So,
we'll talk about it from your college sports perspective. Could Stephon Castle handle his name being all over the world like it is in college basketball, whatever? But I'm just basketball in general,
yeah,
right?
I mean, yeah. I have a really hard time feeling for anybody that makes that much money and complains about their face being all over the, being covered and comparisons. That's
well, he's not. Let me just, to be fair to him, he's not complaining about the coverage. He's just saying that you got people that use their names for engagement and they're not accurately covering the product or them fairly. That's what he's saying.
No, I understand that. I just don't feel bad for him. I'll put it that way. I don't. You're making a ton of money, and those people are, for better or for worse, doing their job. And there's a lot of people who enjoy that kind of coverage. It might not be for everybody, but everybody enjoys coverage of whatever sport they pursue in a different way. And I think every sport has different different, I don't know how to say this, different ways of loving the players. Like I think that the biggest difference between like an NBA and hockey is that you root for a ton of different things. Like I think that every hockey fan wants to see OV, besides probably Gretzky fans, but like every hockey fan is following along with OV and seeing it when he breaks Gretzky's record. And it's such this difference of when like we'll talking about when hockey does international play, it's just it's so different than when like NBA does international play. And again, who knows if that's because they don't get to do international play as much as the men's basketball team does get to do. But everybody loves it, right? Like it's fun, it's exciting, and you root for everybody. You don't care who it is, you don't care what team they're on. And it's very, I feel like sometimes when you're watching like NBA, if they do like foreigners versus Americans or whatever that thing they were talking about doing is, it probably is also different because basketball was created, United States created basketball. So that's a difference where hockey is not, it's not the sport of America. So, you bring pride out of it when you beat teams like Russia and Canada and things like that. Kind of talking about this a little bit going down, like, I don't feel like any other sport talks about who is the face of the league more than the NBA. And I just don't understand why it matters. Like and again, I'm not a big NBA fan, but like, who's the current face of the NBA? Well, if I'm my team is the face of the NBA for me, like, I don't care that like LeBron. Yeah. That's, you know what I'm saying? Like there's not, look at football, which is the biggest sport in the United States. I don't know who the face of the team, the league is. Patrick Mahomes.
You know it's Patrick Mahomes.
But you know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily think that like that's like a thing. Like I don't know. I just feel when they like promote NFL, they're promoting whatever game they're promoting. And I think that like that's the right way to do it. I don't really know. Like, when I'm watching even in football, like I'm tuning in to see my team, and then, I'll watch the primetime games. But I think that that's probably even more relevant for basketball because there are so many games that you're pretty much tuning in to watch your teams and then not tuning in to a lot of the other ones. So I think that in everybody's eyes, like their team has a face. You have a face of your team, and I think that's fair. And every team has a face of that team. You know, whenever there's a game, they'll put their face up on the TV, or their on the ticket, or their faces outside of the stadium. I just don't understand like the face of the league thing. And I mean, like, I guess it's probably still, I mean, LeBron, as long as he plays, will be the name. If you were to go to, you know, the question is, if you go to Asia and you ask, you know, or you go to the middle of Africa and you ask, like, name one NBA player, like most people are going to say LeBron, right? So that's just, I don't know. I'm so tired of this discussion of who's the face of it, because I just don't think it matters. But I could be wrong.
Well, I think it matters, like I said, for the crossover appeal, right? I mean, you know, right now you would say, because the NBC is measuring their advertising their stuff. They're advertising Peacock on the NBA with Giannis, Victor Wembanyama, and Jason Tatum. So I mean, it does matter, because you need you when
but
you're
that's
doing
three people is what I'm saying.
Right.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like, it matters because it. Sorry, Amazon is here.
I was going to say, did the mailman show up? Did the mailman show up?
No, it's just Amazon. He's not even coming to our house. He's just driving by. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think there's faces of games and faces of teams, and I think that they matter in that instance. But, like, how often do you just, like, promote the general NBA, I guess?
They do a lot. I mean, they have the, like you said, the NBA happens more. You don't watch it, but they do it a lot when they do national games, international games. And so the current face of the NBA to me, faces the NBA to me right now, are Giannis, are Jokic, are Embiid, are a lot of players. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, the NBA is fine the way it is. They have their current faces right now. It's just a matter of, you know, I know the casual NBA fans, it doesn't matter. But, you know, for the discussion of the league, like I mentioned earlier, right? NBA has crossover appeal. You've got all these people writing, even irrelevant players are writing, get lyrics written about them. Like, you know, even though I liked Mo Bamba, like, all of y'all were bopping the Mo Bamba, right? So at your college party. So I mean, there's one right there, right? So like, I'm just of the mindset that it matters, because to the NBA, like I said, when you're trying to serve an audience and you have the youngest audience of any major sport of 18 to 40-year-olds, you need somebody who could appeal to those people. I mean, we kind of saw it, you know, in our industry even more, right? Why is Lester Holmes retiring? Because even though I like Lester, I think Morgan likes Lester. For our age group, no one wants to hear a 50, 60-year-old man at 6:30 p.m. talking about the news, right? You want somebody who could appeal. And that's what it is. Morgan, you understand that. That's what it is. That's what it is at this point, right? Like, it's happening in our field, and it happens in sports all the time. Like, you know, this is probably the last Olympics that you're going to see LeBron James and KD and Steph Curry as active NBA players, right? That is, for lack of a better term, like the latter half for you and I. That was our generation, the last half of the mid 2000s basketball players right there. Steph Curry, KD, and LeBron James. So it matters because we're entering the 20s, heading into the 30s of the NBA. And so you need that player. Now, none of them will probably last as long as Steph, KD, and LeBron, but you need that face, because you need to appeal to you need somebody who's going to appeal to 18 to 40-year-olds. And that's what I mean, right? That coverage, that engagement coverage has its place. But what it is, along with the Skip Bayless's crapping all these players, what it is, the only thing that gets millions and billions of views, that's the problem. And I think that's what LeBron is saying, right? You're not talking about the product. You're talking about engagement farming, what Centel says, which is made up for engagement farming, right? So that's what I think it means. Like, and that's what I say the NBA is covered differently. That is the coverage, right? You're not getting this back and forth pure coverage between you and I. Nobody's watching. I love what we do. I think we do a great job. Our viewers say we do a great job. But, you know, as much as I love this, I would love to one day come on here and see 1 million views under this episode. But that's not going to happen, because no one cares about the analytics stuff and the pure NBA stuff. This is not what gets the hits anymore, right? So moving right along, the Philadelphia 76ers shut down Joel Embiid. And my reaction to this, well, it's about time. He has not looked himself. They were just doing this for ticket sales and the hopes of contending. But I would rather see a healthy Joel Embiid out there than half of himself. I mean, he was able to put it together for the Olympics and show how great he is. I think the Olympics did really well to show Joel Embiid is one of the best players in the NBA, and I think he's shown that for the past couple of years. But I think it was time at this point. The Sixers doesn't seem like they will be in the playoffs this year. So I think it's better for him to get shut down, go get the surgery or whatever he decides to do to get back in the form next October, because and then we can just move on to the next question. Like, is his era of the Sixers with the Sixers over, and should they just trade him? No, they shouldn't trade him because, you never get, and the Sixers know this when trading Allen Iverson, trading Drew Holiday, you never get pure value for a superstar. And he could just as simply do what Andre Iguodala did. They traded him. He put in his work, went to Golden State, got rings, and now you got all these casual and current Sixers fans being like, we never should have traded Iggy. We never should have traded Drew Holiday. You never get value for a superstar, especially one of the caliber of a Joel Embiid, especially when he's top 4, top 3, for me, number 1 in the league. Like, he's the best scorer in the league. And I'm of the mindset that his era is not over, because the Sixers were able to pull off a victory because Quentin Grimes outscored Steph Curry. I never thought I'd say that, but that's what happened on Saturday night. So Quentin Grimes outscored Steph Curry, and that is why the Sixers got to win. I have said already on this show that pick is as good as gone. So, to me, it doesn't really matter if they keep that pick or not. I'm of the mindset that his era is not over. I feel like he's going to come back stronger. I've seen it before. I think that he finally just needs to be healthy. I think this is a blessing in disguise for him, as somebody who also, broke a femur, a little bit different than not having a meniscus anymore. But, it takes you a while to trust your leg, trust your knee, trust whatever that bone is. And you kind of need your leg and your knee to play basketball. So I think he needs to go get whatever. If he needs to go to Germany and get the Kobe Bryant, do that. Whatever he needs to do. But no, his era with the Sixers is not over. And he's one of the best basketball players on the planet. So not just the Sixers, but the NBA needs for Joel Embiid to get back to form. So, I am of that mindset that it is not over. But I know that there are a lot of people dancing on the back of Joel Embiid, thinking it's over. We're going to see me fighting them all weekend. So it is what it is. The Sixers finally in their 9-game losing streak. And my reaction to this. My reaction to this is great. I thought that should have happened 2 games ago, but I'm of the mindset that, I think that they're still like the East. The bottom half of the East is so bad that the Sixers could probably 5-6 game win streak. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but a 3 or 4 game win streak probably gets them somehow into the play-in tournament. Now, so if they can just string it together. They're playing the Blazers tonight. Mike Tirico is going to be calling that game locally for you Sixers fans. So you'll get a chance to experience Mike Tirico. But I'm of the mindset that for the Sixers, it's just about staying healthy, getting that chemistry together, doing all you can to win games, and, stay competitive. And that's crazy to say, because this season there was a lot more hope than what's going on now. But now it's just about staying competitive. Whether you keep the pick or you lose the pick, for me, that pick was as good as gone, because I didn't expect them to be that bad anyway. So it's probably going to end up going to OKC regardless. Best teams in the NBA right now, the Cavaliers, the Celtics, I guess you got to say the Lakers right now because they're a 2 seed, and the OKC Thunder. I feel like, because the Cavaliers have been so dominant, a lot of people are forgetting about the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they're just out here being underdogs, being forgotten. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will probably be the MVP this year. Good for I think it's Kenny Atkinson right now. Good for what he has strung together in Cleveland. Cleveland looks like one of the best teams. It looks like we might be on a collision course for Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Thunder if it all ended today. for the finals. And I think the Thunder would probably win in 5 or 6 games. But I think that's a good matchup. I think that's a matchup that we haven't seen before. It could also end up being Boston and the Thunder, for which I'd still take Thunder in 7. So that's where I'm at. Like, those are the 4 best teams in the NBA right now. Flau'jae Johnson has been speaking of shutdowns, has been shut down because of shin swelling for the SEC tournament. Morgan, you want to start here?
Yeah, I actually watched most of the LSU game yesterday, and they needed her. It was I think this is going to be interesting for LSU, who's looked great all season. I don't know how far this will drop them down. The seeding for March Madness if they don't win or go as far as I think they were probably going to go. But yeah, I don't know if you watched any of the game yesterday. Your girl was all over the place. She was very frustrated.
Oh, Mulkey?
Yeah.
My girl. She need to hit that portal more, baby.
Yeah. But I mean, LSU is still a great team, so we'll see. But you never know. What are your thoughts?
I think this is again a blessing in disguise for LSU because I think they need to do all they can to avoid not seeing South Carolina until until it actually matters. I feel like the SEC tournament, especially on the women's side, is basically a confirmation of the regular season. It's very rare that the best team in that conference, unlike in men's college basketball, it's very rare that it's not a repeat of what happened during the regular season. So I fully expect South Carolina to win the SEC tournament. As far as Flau'jae Johnson, Godspeed to her. When they're healthy, because when she's out there, LSU is clearly one of the best teams in the country. But I think this is what happens when you play. Eventually that knee stuff, that leg stuff, especially in March, no one's really healthy, but it serves to be the healthy team right now, and that's not LSU. So, I feel like they have to figure it out now without Flau'jae. It's going to be a struggle, but they're going to have to figure it out. Like, if they're really that team, if they're that team that they think they are, they can compete with Texas and South Carolina, then they got to figure it out. Kim Mulkey got to earn her salt, and Flau'jae needs to come back, and obviously she got to look out for her. I'm not telling her to not play at all to protect her draft status or whatever, but I'm of the mindset that at this point you got to look out for you, girl. You got that championship off the back of Angel Reese. Like, you've had a great career. And again, LSU fans are going to jump at me. I'm not saying that she should pull a college football player and just sit out, but I'm just saying shin, like a bad shin, a bad knee is nothing to play with, especially if you're going to get drafted and then have to play again in May. Like, it is, I'm sure Caitlin Clark, if she had to do all over again, she wasn't injured. Angel Reese, they would have probably thought about, hey, man, maybe I need to pull a college football player and not do this to myself, because it's always amazing to me that more of this doesn't happen, especially the college. Not that I'm wishing for it to happen, but that for college, as far as on the women's side, because they go from playing their season to then playing college to then playing WNBA basketball 2 months later. Like, more of this should be more, as far as injuries and stuff, should be happening. Like, as far as Nika Mule, hate to bring that up, that didn't happen until later after she was done playing all that basketball. But I am amazed that this doesn't happen more often. So shouts out to the college and the WNBA training staff, because that this doesn't happen more often. But as far as Flau'jae is concerned, she got to look out for her at this point. Like, she got a ring, like I said, and she needs to get well, come play if she needs to play. But I think she's pretty sure to be a top 5 pick in the WNBA. So in the draft upcoming, right?
Yeah, I think so. I would assume so.
So yeah, so I think at this point she needs to get well soon and then have a conversation about whether it's worth it to play or not. I think she should, but again, a bad shin is nothing to play with when you're probably going to play more important basketball 2 months from now. So
Yeah. All right. So moving on to my girl on my side of the league, I guess. Paige Beckers was inducted into the Huskies honor, so the Hall of the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame.
For some reason, they call it Huskies of Honor program. I don't know why they do that.
At their senior day, which I did watch. I watched the ceremony. It was really fun. It was great. You know, Paige did it last year too, and last year's when she announced that she would be coming back for this year. You know, Huskies are hitting on all cylinders right now. They look really good. They are, you know, knock on wood, they got everybody healthy right now going into the tournament, which hasn't happened in quite a while. So it's been really fun to watch. When they were making the announcement, they said she actually qualified for the Ring of Honor by her sophomore season, which is pretty crazy. So, you know, she's a special player. She'll be a Husky legend for sure, up there with, you know, Diana and Maya and Stewie and some of the best. So really exciting for her. Kind of, you know, what will her legacy be? It's hard. And, you know, I think we talked about this with Caitlin Clark as well. When some of those players I just mentioned played in the league, there was so much less spread out of talent, I guess is the best way to put it, among teams, that you know, it was easy for UConn to win every game. And I'm not saying that wasn't an unbelievable feat that they had. You know, literally nobody else will ever do it, and part of that reason is because the talent is so spread out right now. You know, you don't have the top 1 through 5 commits just automatically going to UConn every year. They're spread out for different reasons. People are going different places, NIL deals, things like that. So it's harder to win in the women's side of the NCAA now, which is a good thing, I think. But I think she wants her legacy to bring a championship to Storrs. I really think, and you know, this team is really, really, really good this year. The seniors are really solid. Gino did great with the transfer portal. Picking up Chen, she is awesome from Princeton. So we'll see. You know, I don't think that her legacy is going to be smashed if she doesn't win a championship. I still think she's going to be a legend that played for UConn. You know, Kylan, you might disagree with me on that, but you know, I just think that it's gotten to be so hard to win, which is a good thing. There's so much more parity in the women's side now than it used to be, that it's harder. You know, they've made it to the Final Four almost every year she's played in the tournament, and then to the championship one of those years as well. So it's not like they're not going far, and it's not like, oh, she can't win the big one. These games are super close. The last couple NCAA tournament games they've lost have been almost buzzer beaters. So, you know, I still have a lot of faith in them. Kylan? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Got me now?
Yeah, I got you now.
All right. Yeah, I'm of the mindset that Paige Beckers is one of the greatest guards to ever put on a UConn uniform. You know, I don't begrudge her for not winning, because that has nothing to do with her. A lot of that was the way Gino and them constructed the team around her. A lot of injuries, a lot of things that she couldn't deal with.
Can't control, you know.
Yeah, she can't control. I think that, you know, you would think that Ozzie Fudd and a backcourt made of Fudd and Beckers would have gotten you at least one championship. Maybe this will be the year. We'll see if it comes down to them versus South Carolina, like I think a lot of people expect it to, or USC again, who knows. But I'm of the mindset that I think that she is a really great guard, and even if she doesn't win a championship, like Paige Beckers and Maya Moore, right? Like they had better teams constructed around them than Paige Beckers had. And that's no knock on the current crop of women that
No, and I think it's kind of going into what I said is that Gino used to be able to just pick the top 10 recruits all wanted to go to UConn, and he could pick whoever he wanted. Now there are recruits that are actively choosing to go other places, which isn't a bad thing. Like I said, parity is good in any sport. It makes everybody better.
Right. So, like, I'm of the mindset that her legacy is she was a great UConn guard. She broke all of Diana Maya's records within like the first 2 years, like you said. So I'm of the mindset that she's about to be one of the greatest scoring point guards in college basketball. She'll be one of the greatest scoring point guards in the WNBA in another 2 months when she's there. She's got to have a great legacy, and I think she'll add to it by putting a ring on it. So like we'll see what happens, but hey, man,
and for what it's worth, everyone talks about how good of a person she is. Anytime you hear people talk about how an amazing advocate she is for her fans, for her teammates. She's everyone says she's unselfish. They say that she's this perfect mix of cocky and humble, which I think sometimes is really hard to find, especially when you're that good at basketball. So, I will definitely miss her at UConn for sure. The team's not going to look anything like it was this year, especially if we lose her and AZ, but we'll see. Keeping it in Storrs, Connecticut. Kylan has on here what's wrong with the UConn men. I told him I don't know where he's getting his stats from.
I said, what's going on with the UConn men over here?
Okay. They actually, the last couple games have clicked. They've looked really, really well. They've looked really good. They beat, it's Georgetown and Providence, so that's not, something crazy, but,
Hey, that's good. That's good for your sanity.
and beating Providence by, double digits at, in Providence is always a big, it's always a big accomplishment, like Providence is not an easy place to play. If you've ever had a team that has to play in Providence, it's not easy. And then, the last loss before that is by, a significant amount to St. John's, and St. John's, Kylan and I were talking about this before, is a really, really solid Final Four contender. They're a really, really good team coached by Rick Pitino, who I think should win Coach of the Year. They besides that, they have a lot of like 1-point losses, right? Like Seton Hall, they lost by 1. They have a ton of overtime losses. So, I think that they're finally clicking at the right time. Alex Karaman, I think, got a little shaken up when he had 2 free throws to win the game and missed both of them. Which, somebody like Alex Karaman that's his nightmare. And I'm sure he literally has nightmares about that. Hurley has been trying kind of some new rotations that I honestly have been working a lot. He's been giving some of the players some rest while getting some of the young guys in there. He's getting Noel in there as point guard a little bit, giving Diarra some rest. Not only is he suffering with some tendonitis, he's also fasting for Ramadan. So, anything he can do for those guys and getting those younger guys minutes is so, so important down the stretch right before you hit the tournament, because you never know when you're going to need them. So, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. The 2 last games they have are the Marquette game on Wednesday, which is a big game. That is their last chance to get a quad 1 win, top 25 win. That's will be big for them. If they beat Marquette, I believe, and you can, somebody fact check me on that, they will go past Marquette and they would go past Creighton, I believe, and be in 3rd. I'm trying to look at the standings right now. But this site is not good. I don't know. I can't really tell. How many games back are they? Yeah, I don't know. It's a bad site. I can't really tell, but I believe, and it's also would be good. They would have swept Marquette this year. So, and the last game of the season is at home versus Seton Hall. I will actually be at that game. It's their senior night game. After losing to Seton Hall, I don't know, a week ago, February 15th, 2 weeks ago. I have a hope that they'll blow the doors out of them. So going into the tournament, I'm, optimistic. With the win on Saturday, they clinched their spot in the tournament. They are a lock now. They are not a slight bubble team anymore, which is exciting. So hopefully they can win these 2 last games, then maybe go and win the Big East tournament. Okay.
Yeah, I have nothing to say. I hope that for your sake, I hope that they do well. Moving right along to our next to last segment. Who should be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft? To me, it should be Cam Ward. I think that
okay. You think should be the number 1 draft, or with who's drafting is going to be the number 1 draft?
I mean the number 1 pick is the Titans, right?
Yeah. Do you think that they're going to take a quarterback?
I think they need to take a quarterback because they killed Will Levis. So not literally, but his career. Like they've done what the Panthers did to what's his name in Carolina, and I know he can't wait to get free of them. So that's no sourcing on that if you're a Panthers fan, but I mean you can just tell he can't wait to get free of them. So I'm of the mindset that it should be Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, but it'll probably end up being Travis Hunter because Tennessee loves shooting itself in the foot no matter who the GM is. So they need because how often will Tennessee be a number 1 pick? They need to get their quarterback of the future. They probably won't because they're so enamored with Travis Hunter. And I mean, Travis Hunter is box office, but I mean, this is why I think Howie Roseman and so many other GMs are like really good at what they do, right? Because they don't pick for box office. They pick for what the team needs. And right, like I said earlier, like Travis Hunter is more of a want than a need for the Titans. Like they have what's his name from Kansas City. They don't need another shutdown corner. What they need is a quarterback. So somebody who could throw the ball. So and if that's not Will Levis, then it needs to be either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. So for me, it should be Cam Ward. But I know the way the Titans think it's going to be Travis Hunter. And like I said, they love shooting themselves in the foot. So Morgan?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Travis Hunter. I think that there's some players that you just don't mess with getting. I don't think that Cam or Trav or Shedeur honestly are like locks to be superstars. I think Travis is a lock to be a superstar, and I think that's a really hard player to pass up on. But who knows? Again, there's so much time until the draft. The Titans have talked about trading that pick away for something, so we'll see. We will see where we are. Like I said, in a month and a half, and free agency kind of starts to happen, we will start to get a probably clearer picture of where teams are looking, depending on who they pick up in the next couple weeks. So, Kylan, you're going to react to this. I don't even understand. I keep hearing people talk about it. I don't understand or watch wrestling.
Crossover, baby. But before we get there, I mean, I don't know if Morgan's been checking her phone, but T. Higgins has signed. Jimmy Johnson has decided he's done with Fox NFL stuff.
Oh, wow. No, I have not.
There's been a lot happening. Serena Williams is joining the Toronto WNBA expansion team as an owner.
Serena Williams
We'll talk about that next week, but those are the 3 things just breaking as we speak right now at 2:56 Eastern Standard Time. But yes, so for those of you, Morgan is not a wrestling fan if you haven't figured that one out. But Kylan, oh my God, I don't know why I'm reading this lower third as it pops up. Oh my, for those of you who have been wrestling fans, like Morgan knows who John Cena is, obviously. But for those of you who are wrestling fans, right? I mean, we were having such a great time. It's been up in the WWE for the last couple of years since Triple H took over. And, John Cena wins, right? The Elimination Chamber. So he goes and faces Cody Rhodes. Then out comes The Rock, the final boss, with Travis Scott, one of Morgan's favorite. I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure one of Morgan's top 5 rappers, favorite top 5 rappers, right? I like him too, but comes out, right? He's got to tell him, He's gotta tell The Rock if he's gonna sell his soul and become corporate Cody Rhodes, right? Cody says, go F yourself, right? And he hugs John Cena, right? And you think it's over. But then the camera tightens in to The Rock, right? Doing this. And you see those diabolical peacemaker eyes in John Cena's face. And then he hits him with the kick below the belt. And oh my goodness, y'all. We have Hill John Cena. Some of y'all have been asking for Hill John Cena for like 20 years, right? And now we finally got it. And this has changed wrestling. Like, obviously, I like talking about wrestling. I don't talk about it on the show a lot, except for last year when WrestleMania was here in Philly. But I'm talking about it. I'm a wrestling fan, but the non-wrestling fans are talking about it. Dan Orlovsky's talking about it. Morgan's talking about how coworkers at NBC are talking about it. Like, it's one of the greatest things to ever happen because wrestling is all about stories, right? And then it's lit the sports world on fire. Tyrese Halliburton is talking about it. I'm talking about it. I'm on Facebook talking about it. My groups, Sixers fans and Eagles fans that haven't watched wrestling in like 10 years are back tuning in because John Cena has become a bad guy. Oh my God. Like, Morgan, this is like if for you, this is like Saquon Barkley joining the Eagles. This is what this is to your level of sports. Like, this is John Cena.
I thought John Cena was retiring though.
Yeah, he is. This is his final run, but he's doing it as a bad guy because Cody Rhodes is just that. He's like the sentimental good guy, right? Like this has so many levels, and WrestleMania is in Vegas this year. I'm not going. This has so many levels to the story because you don't know where it's going. Like, you hope, and I hope as a Cody Rhodes fan that he gets a nice long 2-year title reign, like Roman Reigns did. But now I don't know. Is John Cena going to get his 17th and become corporate Cena with The Rock? They both got movies to shoot. So I don't know. It's Cody Rhodes. But this is what wrestling is all about. You don't know. It's not predictable. And this is just crazy. It's lit the world on fire because so many people never expected this. We didn't see it coming. I did when I saw the camera angle and how it tightened up on Cena. I'm like, oh, what's about to happen? Because as media people, Morgan, I know when the camera tightens in on something's about to happen. It's a classic horror movie thing, as Morgan knows from being a horror movie fan. Like the camera tightens up, you know stuff's about to get real, right? So I like chef's kiss. I don't know what your friends and family and everybody who likes wrestling are saying, but Morgan, this is crazy.
Big stuff, I've heard. Big stuff.
It is. We're on the road to WrestleMania, which is like I said, in Vegas this year, and I don't know what's going to happen. Travis Scott apparently has been training on how, like I said earlier, I
saw that.
Yeah, he's been training on how to wrestle, so he might just pop up in here. The Rock is forming like a movie star stable of old wrestlers. Like, it could go either way. And now, what is Cody Rhodes going to do? Is Stone Cold Steve Austin going to show up this year? Like, am I going to see a Stone Cold Stunner? Like, like if you're a millennial, this is this is just crazy. This is levels. Like, kids were crying on video clips. Like, everybody's so stunned because he was doing Make-A-Wish stuff before the show, and then he becomes a bad guy. It's like, oh my, like, woo! John, give that man his Oscar, man, because he swerved a lot of people with this. Oh my! All right, so yeah, so
I know one of Kylan's shout outs is going to be the script writers of wrestling for sure. But let's head to our shout out segment, shout out series. Honestly, I'm shouting myself out for being 9 months pregnant and still functioning. Very, very, very ready. But for real, a shout out to my friends and family who have been awesome, coming, helping out and doing all the things that we've needed help with. And I'm sure they will continue to. But yeah, that's what I got for today.
Yeah, I want to shout out Bree Clark, Clemson gymnast, who was the first collegiate gymnast and probably the first gymnast not named Simone Biles to do a Biles 1 in the actual competition. So, and she got shouted out by Simone twice for it. those of you that have not seen that clip, look it up. It's so adorable and cute. She's like, she knows I exist, and I'm like, it's hilarious, bro. So yeah, shouts out to Brie Clark for that. Being the first, I think, gymnast probably ever to nail a Biles one, not named again, Simone Biles. So big ups to her. Yeah, shouts out to that. Trying to think. Shouts out to the 76ers. They just did their Youth Foundation Gala thing. I think they raised a lot of money for that. Penn State and multiple other schools have done thons. Penn State raised, I think, $17-18 million for cancer
always
research.
Amazing every year.
Yeah, which has become more and more important based on the cuts that we are seeing with our government and everything else. But yeah, so shouts out to all the people doing good right now. And so we had to He's Not Him, She's Not Her, and They Aren't Them. I can start here. My They Aren't Them, because I only have one. My They Aren't Them is, everybody dancing on the back of Joel Embiid, just because I don't understand, for somebody, for a player that gets a lot of people money, why people are like, he's done, he's this, he's that. Morgan knows I have a strict rule about over speculating whether it's emotional or not, especially when it comes to injuries. I think he will be back. I think a lot of people are going to look stupid. I think that the NBA needs for him to be back, but I just don't like the discourse around Joel Embiid. I think it changes. People move goalposts around it. I think a lot of people just don't know a good basketball player when they see one. And I think that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be looking stupid very, very soon. So my They Aren't Them is for all these casual and actual basketball fans that for some reason hate Joel Embiid for different various reasons. I guess maybe he stole their girl or something, but like they just have, it kind of reminds me of what goes on with Jalen Hurts. Like it's never about the actual what's going on. It's always about an agenda or a bias. So that's my They Aren't Them. Morgan?
Yeah, I don't really have any. I just He's Not Him is just Aaron Rodgers. Please don't come to my football team. That's about it.
Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, or Aaron Rodgers?
I'd take Justin Fields over both of those two. Oh, I don't want any of them. I want Sam Darnold.
Well, you still got Kirk Cousins. You can get Kirk Cousins.
I'd take Kirk Cousins in a heartbeat. I'd take Kirk Cousins in a heartbeat over any of them. So that is it for today. 1:42, getting out right after 3 p.m. Have a great week. We will see if I'm back next week. Who knows? Maybe the baby will have come. But either way, Kylan will be here. We will see where baby wants to go. I had an appointment today, and they said the only person who knows when this baby is coming is baby. So that's super fun for me. But we will see you guys soon. Enjoy this weekend. Enjoy the start of conference championships for the women and the end of the regular season for the men's college basketball. Keep that eye out on NBA and enjoy the beginning of free agency. All right. Peace out, guys.
Deuces.